This broadcast is a Stephen K. Media production.
The success of the small business person is the cornerstone of the American economy. Welcome to the Small Business Today Show with your hosts, Cruise and Hughes. The Small Business Today Show is for and about small business advancement and development. What we do for you. We'll be taking your calls as we provide you small business intelligence and mentorship needed to grow your business creatively. Keep listening. The Small Business Today Show with Cruise and Hughes starts now.
Hello and welcome back to today's episode of Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes right here on Blog Talk Radio. We also stream live at ustream.tv. Now, this is the place where we discuss the topics that inspires entrepreneurs from thought to action. We welcome you to call and ask some questions, participate in the conversation. Even if you don't agree, feel free to call anyway. You can reach us at 347-857-3958. That number here to the studio is 347-857-3958. Irv, it's a terrific Tuesday.
Terrific Tuesday, John.
How was your day today, sir?
A great day today. You know what? No rain, not entirely too hot, although it got hot quick early this morning, but then it kind of leveled out.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad today, especially considering that I spent most of the day inside.
Yeah, well, you know what? Here in the offices, it's pretty cool. Yeah, we keep it cool here. And then, of course, it's cool to be John Cruise.
Hey,
so,
well, you know I do my
helps.
best.
Yeah, that's right. That helps. But no, had a great day today. Talked to some bankers today. Talked about finance and, one of my favorite topics, obviously, and helping some of my clients get access to some capital, and so we're pretty excited about that.
Well, now I want to ask you that. Now, you keep your ear to the street as it relates to banking.
Absolutely.
And right now, this has not been a good year to be in the banking business. I mean, when you look at the fact that you got bankers that are out here laundering money for illegal factions,
right.
and hiding things. And,
right.
So, I mean, tell me, is it getting any better?
No, not right now. It's tough going, and
I mean, we'd appreciate if you lied to us just a little bit.
No, it's not getting any better from the standpoint of, are the banks any stronger? No. I mean, the banks are just as strong as they're going to be. A lot of them are flush with cash. The problem is not cash, it's credit.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is credit, and a lot of people are talking about what the banks are doing as far as whether or not they're relevant anymore as far as lending to small business and this sort of thing. Banks are absolutely relevant as far as lending to small business, but what's happened is there is a credit issue going on where banks are not in a position to take the kinds of risk that they did in the past. And so you still have a market that's operating off the old information about how to get access to capital. And the truth is that now there's a lot more parameters. And to put it in perspective, lenders, commercial lenders, small business lenders used to have about 10 or so ratios that they looked at when they were underwriting a loan. Today, it's more like 18 to 20, just to give you an example. So there's a lot more that they're looking at, and the net result of that is, of course, they're not buying as much risk as they were.
Now, how does that help a credit/debt society? Because that's what we are.
Yeah.
We have to have access to debt. We have to continue to create debt for our business model as
Correct.
Americans to
Absolutely.
work. So what do we do now that we have been, a rubber band has been placed on our ability to touch capital as it relates to small business?
No, we just have to be smarter about it. That's all. We have to be smarter. We have to be guarded. More so, we can't be cavalier with our credit anymore. Now we have to be diligent about making sure that our credit will come up to the kinds of standards that banks will bank. Let me be clear. Banks are loaning money, all right? But they're loaning money to what they call very well qualified borrowers.
People who don't need it.
Well, not necessarily.
Some people, I'm certain that I speak for America when I say that. That's their feeling.
Well, I know that's their feeling, John, but the truth is that everybody needs it at some point if you're in business, because even if you have money, and I'll give you a good example. I have a good friend of mine who is probably not the kind of person who would go and borrow money ever because he doesn't have to, all right? And he started a new venture, and he calls me up to borrow $50,000. Now, this guy probably does that an hour. And that's not an exaggeration. And if I said his name, you would know exactly who he is.
Go ahead and say it.
No, I'm not going to say it. I mean,
the American people want to know who can they call to get $50,000.
No, the guy's got 8 homes, this kind of thing.
All right.
But he calls me up
for $50,000.
For $50,000, and I'm going, "What are you doing?" He starts laughing. He says, "Well, this is a startup." And I said, "Fund the startup. What are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, you don't understand, Irv. See, my money is for me. And so I'm not putting my money in a risky startup."
That's what the banks are for.
That's what the banks are for. And that's literally was his attitude. He's like, no, my money is for me. If something bad happens, I have the money to get out of it, but I'm not putting my money in my risky deal. I'm going to borrow this money, and that's why I'm calling you.
Well, I think that the American people who are in a position where they are in business and they've had some issues with their credit,
sure,
but they have access to opportunity,
right,
are in a crunch right now.
They are,
because they can't go in, and you can't walk into a bank and just touch money.
No, it's because now the opportunity cost of not doing that business. I was recently talking with a prospective client, and he says to me that he wants to raise, get this, $50 million, okay, but he wants to offer 10% of the company. All right, and I said, that's fine.
Was his name Zuckerberg?
No.
Okay,
no,
all right,
but close. He wants to raise $50 million. He wants to offer 20% of the company to the equity investors. 10% of the company to the equity investors. Now, here's the problem. I said, you understand that what you're saying to an investor is that your company is worth at least $500 million.
That's got to be a lot of upside in this business.
It's got to be a whole lot of upside. And I said, your company right now is not worth $500 million.
So where did he get this number from?
No, that's the number he's comfortable with. Doesn't mean anything. That's the point.
Well, that is the problem with a lot of small business people.
Right.
And they don't understand how to value their operation so that they can attract investor capital.
Yeah, and so we're going to have more conversation, of course, because now I know now that I have an education part that I've got to go through with him to help him get positioned where he understands what drives investor dollars and what doesn't. And valuation is one of those things.
Right.
That most entrepreneurs have this real strange idea about what valuation is.
Well, in that scenario you just gave, is this company even worth $5 million?
Yes, it is worth $5 million.
So his numbers aren't just completely.
No. He's doing actually well as a small business right now. But the challenge is that he sees a future where there's going to be quite a bit more, and now some people in government have come to him and asked for help even. So, he's got a great business model.
Okay.
So the potential is there,
okay,
but not today. That's the point.
Gotcha.
The potential is certainly there, but not today.
Well, I have no relief for you right now as it relates to touching capital for small business people. Irv, you've heard him say it right here that the banks are still in a crunch. By all intents and purposes, everything that I read that comes out of Washington or that comes out of Wall Street says that we need to hold on to our belts and perhaps even tighten them just one more notch tighter before things are going to open up and get any better. Right. And I know that doesn't give you any reprieve for your situation. However, we will talk a little bit today, since we're coming off the topic of corporations.
Right.
And what you need to do in order to run yourself as a corporation efficiently and within the guidelines of the law. Why don't we talk a little bit today about one of your favorite topics, how to access corporate credit? What are those steps that are necessary?
Sure.
And perhaps, just perhaps, that if you do things right, you will be able to use that access to capital, or rather that corporate credit to access capital in your business. And I can fire some questions away at you. We encourage you guys to either give us a call right here in the studio or log right into Blog Talk. If you have any questions for Irv, now is the time. Let's challenge him on every stand if we possibly can. We're going to get some money out of this banking system somewhere tonight. All right. Tell you what, let's start out with corporations, because in order for you to access corporate credit, we've just gone through a couple days of talking about the corporation what you have to have. And one of the things is you have to first become a corporation.
You first have to become a corporation, and guess what? You got to have a documented corporation. In other words, you got to have your corporate books, folks. You've got to have all of your minutes, your resolutions. You've got to have your voting members documented. You've got to have all of those things that we talked about, your bylaws, your operating agreement if you're an LLC. But for today, we're going to be talking about corporate credit. And so I'm talking about now, don't get me wrong, if you're an LLC, if you're a limited partnership, if you're a limited liability company, if you're a C corporation, S corporation, any of those things, you can get corporate credit. So I don't want you to get hung up about that. But I do want you to understand that for the context of what we're going to talk about today is going to be for C corporations, and I'll get into why in a minute. Okay,
so not LLCs, not S corps. Right now we're focusing our topics on C corps.
Corporate credit, because really all of these, like as I said, all of these can get business credit or corporate credit, okay? But corporations, C corporations, actually are better structures to set up corporate credit than the others. And we'll talk about why that is.
Well, stick around. We're going to give you some more information right after this break. Get your pens handy. If you want to call us, you can do so at 347-857-3958. Again, the number here is 347-857-3958, or go straight into Blog Talk, jump in the chat room, put your questions in there, and we'll be most prepared to answer them when we come back after this. You're listening to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes. It's brought to you by Small Business Today magazine. If you'd like to get a free subscription to the publication emailed to you every single month, go to smallbusinesstodaymagazine.com. And it's also brought to you by our good friends at Sales Nexus, a qualified, great CRM that will help you in your sales effort. And you can download a free trial at salesnexus.com. More in a moment. We'll be back.
Turn up the sales on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Anything Internet will evaluate your website for marketing power, for traffic, for conversion rates. We'll figure out why people buy and why people go away. We'll help you generate the correct traffic that will turn into customers and make you money. Turn the juice up on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Turn your website into a web business. 1-800-686-5986.
Very often, people come to me saying,
Stephen, how do I make radio advertising work?
Or even worse,
we've tried radio ads before and got little to no response.
So how do you make the radio work for you? Well, you could have a clever jingle.
Come buy my stuff. Come buy my stuff.
Or you may act crazy and loud and have an unbeatable offer.
I'll save you cash. I'll save you time, and I'll do it today, guaranteed.
But these techniques may work for some and not for others. The real key to advertising is to go back to basic marketing principles. Target your ideal prospect, make your message clear and concise, and touch the listener by connecting to their needs. Stephen K. Media specializes in radio advertising promotion that effectively broadcasts your company's message, yielding higher response and better results. As an independent agency representing major talk radio stations, we help you negotiate rates and place your ads targeting your ideal prospect. Call us today at 713-278-9109 or visit stephenk.biz. That's 713-278-9109 or email info@stephenk.biz. Are you looking to improve your health and well-being? Have you lost your energy and vitality? Do you wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are? Looking for a doctor who really listens? Looking for a natural alternative to your chronic health challenge? Dr. Dan Cooney is a chiropractic nutritionist who helps restore your health from the inside out using whole food supplements and specific nutritional counseling. Learn more about Dr. Dan's 7 Pillars of Health on his website, drdancooney.com, or give him a call at 713-295-9358.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now,
Excuse me, heavy news?
you know, disasters, politics, stock market,
And this alternative is...
coffee news. It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
Free?
In restaurants and coffee shops all across Houston. So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, look for coffee news. If they don't have it, tell them to get it by visiting coffeenewshouston.com.
It's light. It's free. It's coffee news.
Now playing at Regal Entertainment Group Theaters.
From Christopher Nolan,
The storm's coming.
The Legend ends in IMAX. What are you? I'm Gotham Directed. The Dark Knight Rises. Rated PG-13. Visit IMAX.com for showtimes and listings.
Go to www.regmovies.com to find showtimes and buy your tickets to this and other great feature films now. That's www.regmovies.com.
You're listening to Small Business Today. Visit us on the web at svtmagazine.net. Here are your hosts, Cruise and Hughes.
Okay, welcome back to the show. Irv and I are talking today about getting business credit or establishing business credit.
Right.
We're going to give you all the points that you need today so that you can get yourselves prepared to produce a good business profile, business credit profile.
Absolutely. And really that's the key. And that's what you have to do both in business and personally today to get access to capital and credit.
Well, I tell you what, we went into break. We were talking a little bit about why a C corporation is probably better suited for obtaining business capital than, say, an LLC.
Sure.
Why don't we touch on that?
Yeah. When you're establishing corporate credit, folks, even if you're an LLC, and let me be clear, you can get corporate credit even if you're an LLC or a limited partnership. But you have to keep in mind that you're an LLC, which means now you have members, you don't have shareholders. And so that means that now you may have an operating agreement between you and your other members. When you're applying for credit, your prospective creditors are going to want to know who those other members are and who is ultimately in charge of this LLC. Remember, it's not a corporation. It's a limited liability company, which means that it's kind of a hybrid between a corporation and a partnership. And so now the operating agreement adds another layer of scrutiny into the company that perhaps you wouldn't have if you were just a C corporation.
You know, also, too, now I don't know how it is in every state, but I know here in the state of Texas, there are two ways that you can select in which to operate your LLC.
Correct.
One is a manager-managed LLC,
right,
and the other is a member-managed LLC.
Right.
And I can see why that would be difficult, because if you choose manager-managed at the time that you get your LLC, then your members stay anonymous. You don't have to list or make public who your members are. Now, I personally am a fan of the member-managed LLC because I don't have to get into who owns the corporation.
Right.
But now, as a member-managed or a manager-managed, I can definitely see why you would have some problems not being a C Corp in terms of, people who are extending this credit, understanding who is operating, who's in control, who has what.
And that's what I wanted to just be clear on. It doesn't mean, folks, that you can't get credit. It just means you have another layer of scrutiny that you're going to have to disclose some things. Whereas if you were a C corporation, you don't have to do that. Okay, now talking about a C corporation, remember we told you that you have to have articles of incorporation, you have to draft your bylaws, and your bylaws are the rules that the corporation is governed by. You have to have minutes, and then you have to have stock certificates. That's what makes up your corporate record book, plus your resolutions. And your resolutions are your permission slips to do whatever the corporation needs to do. So now at the time that someone is going to work on a credit profile, should there be a resolution? Absolutely.
Okay,
it's especially got to have a resolution just for that.
Okay.
And if you have outside help, for example, shameless plug, if you hired a consultant to help you put that together.
You mean a consultant like Ervin Hughes?
Yeah, well, I was going to stop short of there. I don't want people feeling like, oh yeah, that guy's being narcissistic. But no, if you're going to hire, say, a consultant to help you build and manage corporate credit, that's one of the things that you have to have a resolution passed, literally, to say who that is and what role they're going to be playing. Why? Because now you're going to have a third party that's going to be interacting with prospective creditors, and they don't want to talk to anybody but whoever they're extending credit to. So you need to have a resolution just to authorize just that alone. And then, of course, whoever it is in that resolution, whoever it is you're expecting to apply for credit with.
Now, let's say, Irv, that I'm looking to get corporate credit. I've been running my business for several years. I pay my bills on time.
Right.
I operate my company from home.
Right.
And I use a cell phone because most people just don't have landlines these days.
Right.
Does any of that come into play?
Yes. Yes. And it's going to work against you.
the fact that I work from home and the fact that I use a cell phone as my business line.
That's right. That is going to absolutely work against you when you are establishing business credit. Remember, folks, the reporting agencies now, and I'm just going to, for the benefit of today, I'm just going to focus on Dun & Bradstreet. Now, there are others, of course, now Experian Business is into the game now. And now I understand TransUnion is getting into the game now as far as reporting on business credit. But the oldest, largest, and most established reporting agency for business credit is Dun & Bradstreet. So I'll focus kind of our information on what those rules are, simply because those are the oldest and most established rules when it comes to corporate credit.
Okay.
All right. Now, working at home with your home address as your business address when it comes to establishing credit is absolutely going to work against you, because one of the things that corporate credit reporting agencies do is they verify everything. And remember, what are they verifying? They're verifying that you are indeed a business.
A legitimate business.
A legitimate business with legitimate operations going on. So they're wondering now, if you're running a business out of your house, okay, and that's your business address, now when they go to verify that, now they have things like Google Earth. So they're gonna run that address, and they're gonna see a picture of your house. So they're gonna see your business operation.
So even if you're doing business out of an apartment, and instead of putting apartment, you put suite. I'm in suite 1400.
Right.
When really I live in apartment or unit 1400.
That's right.
That's one way to verify that. You come up with Google Earth, and it takes you straight to 1401 other units.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Looks like an apartment.
And the same holds true for if you set up, say, a post office box, a private mail box. They're going to zoom in on that address, and guess what? It's a UPS store.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then that's the case. What I'm saying is, get your business a business address.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. Now,
spend more money.
Immediately, John, I knew you were going to say this. Yes, spend more money. If you're going to, look, folks, if you're going to go to the trouble to establish credit separate and apart from you, and that's the benefit, and perhaps we should have talked about this first. What's the benefit of it? The benefit of it is it's credit that's separate and apart from you personally.
That you're not personally guaranteeing. We're talking about corporate credit.
Corporate credit.
Which is different. If I may cut you off,
that's right.
It's different than if you were to go in as your business and apply for a business line of credit.
That's correct.
And what is that difference?
The big difference is the personal guarantee.
There it is.
If you're going in to go for a business line of credit for your business, even though it's in your business name, trust me, you're going to sign an agreement that has a personal guarantee in it. In the case of corporate credit, there is no personal guarantee. Now, I have to be honest, in today's economy, there are a lot of creditors, a lot of companies, and I'm talking about corporate creditors, who try to slowly get you around to a personal guarantee. All right. And so, and maybe we'll talk about that if we have time today.
Well, I tell you what, as far as a personal guarantee goes, I know that all small business people do not like signing it.
Right.
And if at all possible, they don't have to, they don't want to.
Sure.
So keep listening. We're going to make certain that we give you all the steps in order to establish a solid business credit profile. Now, you say, get you a commercial address.
Get you a commercial address.
And as far as the telephone number is considered, if you're doing business from your cell phone, do I have to get a landline?
Get a landline. Even if it forwards to your cell phone, that's fine. But you need a listed landline that's listed as a business line. And you have to talk to your local phone company to get that done. And whatever that costs, yes, that costs more. Yes, you should do that. Because they're going to verify that phone number. And guess what? If it pops up a cell phone, personally,
I could see where that just doesn't show
that's not going to show stability for you
or security, and the fact that you're going to be in business for a long period of time.
That's going to work against you.
Okay, all right.
Because they're going to figure you running your business with a hot phone.
Now, okay, let's say we've done all that, Irv. Now we've got a corporation. Our corporation is in good standing with the Secretary of State in our particular state.
Right.
We have a commercial address.
Right.
We have a landline.
Right.
At what point do I contact Dun & Bradstreet?
Well, it's about that time that you do contact Dun & Bradstreet for the first time. So understand, folks, I see a lot of people run out and get a Dun's number immediately. And I'm trying to say to you, to be clear, that there are some steps that you need to go through before you get that DUNS number. And the first 2 steps are get your corporate address and then get your business phone line.
Okay.
Those 2 steps are absolutely critical, because if you don't, what's going to happen is you could very easily wind up in just before you even get started, you're already in a high risk D&B rating.
And I can see too, Irv, that it's better to, and when I'm using the term the grid in terms of being having a DUNS number,
right.
It's better to stay off the grid if you're not all the way prepared to maximize your business credit profile.
That's right.
I mean, if you don't have any of these things in place, it's better to just stay low, keep doing what you're doing, and until you are ready to step out there and make certain that you have all the points taken care of, just do what you're doing.
Right.
Don't bring attention to yourself.
That's exactly right. Because you have to get prepared to be looked at.
Yeah.
And then one question I'll answer before we go to break in our chat room is, what about a VoIP phone, like an internet phone number?
Yeah,
VoIP, and a lot of people use those in business, and that's great. Skype is one of those where you can just get you a Skype number and you can have that forwarded to your cell phone. What about that? Well, here's the thing. You check with your local phone company and see if they will even do it. If your Skype number or your VoIP number can be added into their listings, the directory listings,
gotcha,
as a business line, and they'll charge you something for that, folks. So I do know that in some states people do that, and just check with your local phone company to find out whether or not that is something you can do.
When we come back from the break, I definitely want to jump on the question of people who pay their bills on time,
right?
And then those, that track record is thrown out by Dun & Bradstreet.
That's absolutely correct, and that is a painful one for sure. Folks, to have your small business featured on Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes, you can call our business office at 832-460-2020 or contact us through our website at sbtmagazine.net. You're listening to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes, brought to you by Small Business Today magazine. By the way, get the new issue. It's got some hot articles in there. You'll really like it. Go to the website and sign up. We'll be back right after this.
Turn up the sales on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Anything Internet will evaluate your website for marketing power, for traffic, for conversion rates. We'll figure out why people buy and why people go away. We'll help you generate the correct traffic that will turn into customers and make you money. Turn the juice up on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Turn your website into a web business. 1-800-686-5986.
Very often, people come to me saying,
Stephen, how do I make radio advertising work?
Or even worse,
we've tried radio ads before and got little to no response.
So how do you make the radio work for you? Well, you could have a clever jingle.
Come buy my stuff. Come buy my stuff.
Or you may act crazy and loud and have an unbeatable offer.
I'll save you cash, I'll save you time, and I'll do it today, guaranteed.
But these techniques may work for some and not for others. The real key to advertising is to go back to basic marketing principles. Target your ideal prospect, make your message clear and concise, and touch the listener by connecting to their needs. Stephen K. Media specializes in radio advertising promotion that effectively broadcasts your company's message, yielding higher response and better results. As an independent agency representing major talk radio stations, we help you negotiate rates and place your ads targeting your ideal prospect. Call us today at 713-278-9109 or visit stephenk.biz. That's 713-278-9109 or email info@stephenk.biz. Are you looking to improve your health and well-being? Have you lost your energy and vitality? Do you wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are? Looking for a doctor who really listens? Looking for a natural alternative to your chronic health challenge? Dr. Dan Cuny is a chiropractic nutritionist who helps restore your health from the inside out using whole food supplements and specific nutritional counseling. Learn more about Dr. Dan's 7 Pillars of Health on his website, drdancuny.com, or give him a call at 713-295-9358.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now,
Excuse me, heavy news?
you know, disasters, politics, stock market.
And this alternative is...
Coffee news. It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
Free?
In restaurants and coffee shops all across Houston. So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, Look for Coffee News. If they don't have it, tell them to get it by visiting coffeenewshouston.com.
It's light. It's free. It's Coffee News.
Now playing at Regal Entertainment Group Theaters.
From Christopher Nolan. The storm's coming. The legend ends in IMAX. What are you? I'm John Cruise Ervin. The Dark Knight Rises. Rated PG-13. Visit IMAX.com for showtimes and listings.
Go to www.regmovies.com to find showtimes and buy your tickets to this and other great feature films now. That's www.regmovies.com.
You're listening to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We're wherever you are.
Okay, welcome back to the show. Irv and I are talking about establishing business credit. I guess you could say a good corporate business.
Right.
Good corporate business profile, shall we say.
Right, exactly right.
Now, we're using Dun & Bradstreet as our heavy today,
right.
and there are some other reporting agencies out there, but we're just talking about what it takes to get into Dunn's. And now, when we went to break, I mentioned that most people want to offer up the fact that, hey, I've got great pay history.
Right.
I've been paying people on time for
right.
5 years.
Right.
And they give 8 or 9 names of companies that they do business with every single month. And then all of a sudden, what happens?
That payment history is not reported, not reflected in their credit profile.
So then you go through the trouble of getting a Dunn's number, getting yourself set up.
Right.
You get a commercial address.
Right.
You get yourself, you get off of doing business on your cell phone and get your landline.
Right. You did all that.
You offer up 8 or 9 other businesses that you pay on time every single month, and then Dunn's doesn't recognize your pay history.
That's
with
exactly
them?
right, because they're not subscribers. Yeah, I knew that was going to strike you with an eerie silence on our show.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, well, here's the rules, okay? First of all, it's not even just a subscriber. They have to have been a subscriber before they're even eligible to report.
Yeah, and that takes a period of time.
And that takes a period of time. It takes 12 months. So when you're selecting your suppliers, all right, or your vendors, one of the things you got to do is you got to ask them whether or not they're eligible to report. In fact, one of the questions is, and this is worth you watching and listening to this show, you need to ask the credit manager in that company whether or not they automatically report to Dun & Bradstreet. That's the key word, automatic.
And if they don't?
If they don't, they may not be eligible.
Wow. Now, this is something then, it makes sense, it would make sense for you to find this out well in advance of you contacting Dun & Bradstreet to get a Dunn's number.
Well, absolutely.
Because if you find out that the 8 or 9 vendors that you're using or suppliers that you're using don't report, then what good does it do you to
it
get a Dunn's number?
Well, it doesn't. But let me say this. Let me be clear. Getting the Dunn's number, it's just an identifier. It just means that now you have a profile. You have a place on the Dunn's platform for you now to put in your credit references to be verified.
But your Paydex score.
Yeah, none of that's going to happen. None of that is going to happen because you've got to find creditors, you've got to find vendors or suppliers that do report and are eligible to report to D&B. And the key word I want to hit you with, folks, is that they have to be eligible. It's not enough that they're just on the Dun & Bradstreet website. They've got to be eligible to report. And the way you find that out is go through 2 steps. Here they are. 1, find out who the credit manager is and ask point blank, do you automatically report payment history to Dun & Bradstreet? That's a yes or a no. And then number 2, verify that with Dun & Bradstreet.
Now, correct me if this is not the case anymore, but I have done business with individuals that I've helped get financing in the past where they have dealt with vendors who say that, no, we don't report unless you don't pay. Which means that they don't report good payment history to Dunn's every month. It's just that, no, if you don't pay us on time, then we report.
Yeah, that means you need a new supplier. Yeah, that's not, see, because that simply means in English, folks, that the only thing they're going to report is something negative on you.
So you should want to make certain that they don't just try to give you a glazed over answer and say, oh, yeah, we report all the time.
Right.
Or we report, but you want to know, are they reporting monthly?
That's right.
Of all your payment history,
That's
not
correct.
just when you're about to default.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
Or if you're past due.
Or if you're past due, absolutely. Now, is this a good time to talk about what paydex score means then? What's the difference between the two?
Well, I want to wrap up what we were talking about with one other item, and that's this.
Go right ahead.
Folks, you have to make sure that the credit terms that you have with your creditors, remember, Dun & Bradstreet and corporate credit reporting agencies assume that the credit terms that you have with your creditors are net 30 credit. In other words, all bills are paid at 30 days. Okay. If you have other arrangements, however, with your creditors, which today a lot of people do because of the economy, a lot of people now don't have net 30 terms. You might have a great relationship with your vendor or supplier, and now you have net 45 terms or net 60 terms. Well, guess what? If you have net 60 terms and you pay your bills in 50 days and your vendor is reporting your payments at 50 days like they should be, because that's the terms of a credit agreement that you have between you and your supplier. If they report that to Dun & Bradstreet, guess what happens?
I'm just guessing that that's not going to be a good thing.
It's not going to be a good thing because now you're going to be past due, and Dun & Bradstreet is going to see that payment report and say, oh, you paid in 50 days, you should have paid in 30.
Even if that is your arrangement.
Even if that is your arrangement. So here's the point. The only way to fix that, and Dun & Bradstreet will allow you to fix that. Don't panic. Okay, don't call Dun & Bradstreet. They will allow you to fix it. But your creditor has to report to Dun & Bradstreet that these are the terms. And so even though this particular person paid in 40 days or 50 days, you still paid within terms.
Wow. And I think there are probably a lot of small business people who don't really think about that.
Oh, you missed a lot of small business people, John, missed that step and just wreck their paydex score. And now it's a good segue into paydex.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about that. Now, getting a DUNS number is altogether different than getting a paydex score. So what exactly is a paydex score?
A paydex score is nothing more than a score that goes from 0 to 100, with 100 being the very best, okay, that you're paying within terms. But the terms, the standard of paydex is 30 days.
Okay.
So that's what I was getting at earlier, and that's why this was a good segue into paydex. Paydex scoring means how many days past your 30-day terms do you pay? And your paydex score is directly linked to your financial ratios that you should be watching, and that is your accounts payable turnover ratio. Hello. Mm-hmm. So if that thing starts to stretch out past 30 days, guess what, folks? Your paydex score is going down incrementally.
You know, and speaking of paydex score, let's give an indication of what generally is an accepted good paydex score.
80 or above.
80 or above.
Yeah. And just to put that in some context, John, somebody that has a business with an 80 paydex score is about like a person with a 760 personal credit score. Just to put that in perspective.
And 80. How long does it take to get to 80?
About 90 days, depending on how fast you're buying things.
Wow. Well, I think already you've given enough information to help most people establish whether or not now is the best time for them to even consider getting corporate credit.
Right. And I guess perhaps we should talk about the other expense, and that is paying Dun & Bradstreet. Because they're going to start, once you get your DUNS number, you're in their system, they're going to start marketing to you folks. And let me be clear, and I know right now, John, you're my partner, and we're going to get into probably some hot water and phone calls and everything about what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it. Folks, do not pay Dun & Bradstreet until you're ready. You do need to pay them, you do need to buy their services, but not before you're ready, because buying their services before you're ready is going to get you into trouble.
Okay, what are their services?
Well, their services, they have a great service, actually, that's called Self-Monitor. And it's where when you're establishing credit, it allows you to pay for their services, which is going to run you anywhere from $400 to $600, depending on what levels of services you're getting.
Is that annually?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And well, no, not annual. It's one time.
Oh, it's one time.
One time,
okay.
and then whatever services you want to continue to use, you use those, kind of pay as you go.
Okay.
All right. But what I was going to say is that it's important that if you pay those folks before you are actually ready, what happens is now you've got a profile, now you've purchased their services, and you've got no information to verify, which means now they're stuck because they have no data on you.
Wow.
Which means now, since they have no data, what do you think your Paydex score and your D&B rating is going to look like?
Well, it's not going to grow.
It's not going to grow. It's not going to look well because they're going to automatically put you in a no data category.
And that's why I say that if you're not ready, it's just best to not even communicate with these folks.
Don't do it until you are ready. Okay to get your DUNS number.
Okay.
Okay to get the number. Not okay to do anything else beyond that until you're ready.
And they are, as you put it, they are going to start marketing for you to get those
of course.
other
And that's
services.
what I wanted to caution people about, John, is that when those letters and those emails and phone calls start, just defer those until you're ready.
Now, when you get started in this entire process, about how long does it take for you to actually get the number and make all of that happen?
Well, it's interesting you say that because it really depends on kind of what industry you're in. For example, if you're in a business that sells to government agencies, you can get a DUNS number in a day.
That soon?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're not in one of those kinds of businesses, it can take you a month or 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks to get the DUNS number.
Depending on what industry you're in.
Correct. And that's whether or not, when I say industry, it just means whether or not you're selling to the government, whether or not you're a government contractor or not, because Dun & Bradstreet has a special relationship for vendors who are selling to the government because the government uses DUNS numbers to identify you in their system. And so they'll give it to you much faster if you're a government agent, government supplier.
When we come back, we're going to ask Irv the money question.
Okay.
If you already have some sort of business credit with your bank and you want to go out and get your DUNS number, can you encourage your bank to report to Dun & Bradstreet?
Well, that's going to be good.
Yeah, because, I mean, who better to report if you're doing business with Bank of America or, Chase or Wells Fargo?
Right.
Who better to report than a well-known established company like that? So when we come back, we'll talk about that.
All right, folks, you're listening to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes, brought to you by Sales Nexus. Stay with us. The education continues in a moment.
Turn up the sales on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Anything Internet will evaluate your website for marketing power, for traffic, for conversion rates. We'll figure out why people buy and why people go away. We'll help you generate the correct traffic that will turn into customers and make you money. Turn the juice up on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Turn your website into a web business. 1-800-686-5986.
Very often, people come to me saying,
Steven, how do I make radio advertising work?
Or even worse,
we've tried radio ads before and got little to no response.
So how do you make the radio work for you? Well, you could have a clever jingle.
Come buy my stuff. Come buy my stuff.
Or you may act crazy and loud and have an unbeatable offer.
I'll save you cash, I'll save you time, and I'll do it today, guaranteed.
But these techniques may work for some and not for others. The real key to advertising is to go back to basic marketing principles. Target your ideal prospect, make your message clear and concise, and touch the listener by connecting to their needs. Stephen K. Media specializes in radio advertising promotion that effectively broadcasts your company's message, yielding higher response and better results. As an independent agency representing major talk radio stations, we help you negotiate rates and place your ads targeting your ideal prospect. Call us today at 713-278-9109 or visit stephenk.biz. That's 713-278-9109 or email info@stephenk.biz. Are you looking to improve your health and well-being? Have you lost your energy and vitality? Do you wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are? Looking for a doctor who really listens? Looking for a natural alternative to your chronic health challenge? Dr. Dan Cuny is a chiropractic nutritionist who helps restore your health from the inside out using whole food supplements and specific nutritional counseling. Learn more about Dr. Dan's 7 Pillars of Health on his website, drdancuny.com, or give him a call at 713-295-9358.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now,
Excuse me, heavy news?
you know, does
actors, politics, stock market.
And this alternative is
Coffee news. It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
free.
In restaurants and coffee shops all across Houston. So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, look for coffee news. If they don't have it, tell them to get it by visiting coffeenewshouston.com.
It's light. It's free. It's coffee news.
Now playing at Regal Entertainment Group Theaters.
From Christopher Nolan.
The storm's coming.
The legend ends in IMAX. What are you? I'm Gotham Directed. The Dark Knight Rises. Rated PG-13. Visit IMAX.com for showtimes and listings.
Go to www.regmovies.com to find showtimes and buy your tickets to this and other great feature films now. That's www.regmovies.com.
You're listening to Small Business Today. Visit us on the web at svtmagazine.net. Here are your hosts, Cruise and Hughes.
Welcome back to the show, and if you're just joining in, you've come in at a good time. We're talking about building business credit or building corporate credit. And I just want to mention that we are in the process of building out our Cruise and Hughes website.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
And very soon we're going to have all of our archives on there, and our archives will be set up so that you can either view the recorded shows through YouTube, or you can listen to the radio show that we do right there on Blog Talk. You'd be able to do that from our website. So that's coming very soon. I'll keep you guys posted as to when the site is live and ready for you to go out there and use.
How cool is that?
I think it's very cool.
Very cool.
A good resource. Now, we went to break. We were talking a little bit about, I have a couple of business credit cards right now.
Right.
And some of those business banks that do business with me, I got a couple lines of credit, one through Capital One, one through Chase Bank, one through Bank of America.
Okay.
I go and get my DUNS number.
Right.
And I want these guys now, because I have great history with them, I want them to start reporting on my Dun & Bradstreet profile so that I can get that Paydex score.
Okay, so you're wanting them to report your payment history.
Right. I've been there for several years, paying on time, and they trust me enough to have given me, a little over $100,000 a piece. So,
nice.
Yeah. So why shouldn't I get them to report?
Yeah. Well, you can't do that.
What?
You can't do it. You can't do that.
What do you mean I can't do that?
Because banks are not allowed to report payment histories to Dun & Bradstreet.
Hold on a second.
Banks are not allowed to report payment histories to Dun & Bradstreet.
But I have a car loan through this bank, and they don't mind reporting through TransUnion, Equifax.
That's right. That's
Experian.
consumer credit. That's consumer credit. That's personal. It's not corporate credit.
So if you are doing business with any banking institution,
right,
and in hopes of having them report on your Dun & Bradstreet number, you can't get that done.
No, folks. And look, let me just tell you, you can verify everything I'm saying. You can go on dnb.com, DNB.com, and just search on bank. Just put the keyword bank in there, and believe me, you'll see plenty of rules that banks are not allowed. And they have a list of financial institutions that are not allowed to report on Dun & Bradstreet. Another one is credit unions.
Is that right?
You can't, if a credit union cannot, even though if a credit union gave you credit,
gives you an SBA loan.
You can't report that as corporate credit on Dun & Bradstreet.
Well, and that's good to know, so that now you don't go out and get yourself completely and entirely set up, and as Irv would have you do, go out and sign a lease on some office space, get a landline, do all these fabulous things, and to think that your bank is going to report on time your payment history. It's not going to happen.
No, you really have to select, like we talked about in the earlier segment, John, you really have to go out and carefully select vendors and suppliers who can report to Dun & Bradstreet.
Well, I think this is letting them know that this requires some strategy.
It requires some strategy, and quite frankly, that's why the consulting work that we do is so critical for the growth of a lot of small businesses, because they're out trying to build credit, they're trying to build credibility, they're trying to understand what they need to do to make their business grow and ultimately get access to capital. and not know the rules.
Absolutely. And then do something that could ultimately end up hurting you more than helping.
Well, absolutely. And it's just one of those things. Before we move on, we had another question pop up in the chat room about whether or not a financial broker or an agent should incorporate to limit their liability. Let me just tell you this. If you are an intermediary, all right, you're in the financial business. You're in the business of financing other people, right? Whether you're a lender directly or whether you're an intermediary where you're facilitating
AKA broker
access to capital, where you're a broker. You might notice that I always say consultant because I do a bit more than brokers do. Brokers generally expect you to bring in your package or put your package together and then they push it out the door. And this is talking about commercial brokers, okay? And they provide a great service in their space, no question about it. Consulting, however, is a little bit different because now we're going to look at what strategy is necessary for you to get placed in the right place. So it's not just the packaging, but it's also the placement. And then what's going to happen following that funding, assuming it's successful. And so it's a little bit more involved than just brokerage. Now, to answer the question, if you are a financial broker or you're in that business where you're an intermediary, should you incorporate, should you become a corporation? The answer is yes, capital YES. Do not do this under a DBA, folks. You're going to get into worlds of trouble. All right, just don't do it.
Period. End of story.
Don't do it. Get incorporated, become an LLC, limited partnership, do something other than you personally.
And if you didn't catch yesterday's show, make certain that you go back and listen because there are some rules to your incorporation for you to be able to keep that corporate veil very strong and so that it can't be pierced. There are rules that you have to operate your corporation by, and I hate to see small business people go out, they incorporate, and the moment the Secretary of State sends them their corporate charter,
right,
it goes into a drawer, and they never think about the incorporation again until it's subpoenaed by some court.
That's exactly right. And so just to be clear, answer the question, be sure you catch yesterday's show. It was really great on that. And then also just to make sure that you understand that you want to limit your liability when you are an intermediary because that means you're a third party to a lending transaction, which means not only could the lender come after you, any guarantors come after you, but more importantly, your client is probably the one who's going to come after you first.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I want to add to before we go to break is that if you do have business credit from most large banking organizations, they too still do not report that on your credit report.
Right.
So until if and when you default on that loan. So that's the good thing about getting business credit that you even have to personally guarantee. They will not report that on your personal credit as long as you're paying on time as agreed. Now, once you're approved, let's say that you get approved, and you said that you have to make those payments within 25 days. Why is that so important?
Yeah, because remember, folks, the paydex score is based on net 30 terms. It's assuming net 30 terms. So guess what? You want to pay in 25 days because you're paying ahead of terms. And guess what?
And that's a good thing.
And that's a good thing because you're paying ahead of terms, which pushes your paydex score higher.
You know, what's interesting is I've heard several consultants who work for the three repositories that report on personal credit.
Right.
And they say that it does not do anything for your credit score if you pay in advance. So things change a little bit.
On corporate credit, it absolutely
makes
it's a direct impact on that paydex score.
All right.
Okay, folks, you're listening to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes. We'll be right back right after these brief messages.
Turn up the sales on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Anything Internet will evaluate your website for marketing power, for traffic, for conversion rates. We'll figure out why people buy and why people go away. We'll help you generate the correct traffic that will turn into customers and make you money. Turn the juice up on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Turn your website into a web business. 1-800-686-5986.
Very often, people come to me saying,
Stephen, how do I make radio advertising work?
Or even worse,
we've tried radio ads before and got little to no response.
So how do you make the radio work for you? Well, you could have a clever jingle.
Come buy my stuff. Come buy my stuff.
Or you may act crazy and loud and have an unbeatable offer.
I'll save you cash, I'll save you time, and I'll do it today, guaranteed.
But these techniques may work for some and not for others. The real key to advertising is to go back to the basic marketing principles. Target your ideal prospect, make your message message clear and concise and touch the listener by connecting to their needs. Stephen K. Media specializes in radio advertising promotion that effectively broadcasts your company's message, yielding higher response and better results. As an independent agency representing major talk radio stations, we help you negotiate rates and place your ads targeting your ideal prospect. Call us today at 713-278-9109 or visit stephenk.biz. That's 713-278-9109 or email info@stephenk.biz. Are you looking to improve your health and well-being? Have you lost your energy and vitality? Do you wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are? Looking for a doctor who really listens? Looking for a natural alternative to your chronic health challenge? Dr. Dan Cooney is a chiropractic nutritionist who helps restore your health from the inside out using whole food supplements and specific nutritional counseling. Learn more about Dr. Dan's 7 Pillars of Health on his website, drdancooney.com, or give him a call at 713-295-9358.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now at...
Excuse me, heavy news?
You know, disasters, politics, stock market.
And this alternative is?
Coffee news. It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
Free?
In restaurants and coffee shops all across Houston. So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, look for coffee news. If they don't have it, tell them to get it by visiting coffeenewshouston.com.
It's light. It's free. It's coffee news.
Now playing at Regal Entertainment Group Theaters.
From Christopher Nolan. The storm's coming. The legend ends in IMAX. What are you? I'm Gotham Directed. The Dark Knight Rises. Rated PG-13. Visit IMAX.com for showtimes and listings.
Go to www.regmovies.com to find showtimes and buy your tickets to this and other great feature films now. That's www.regmovies.com.
You're listening to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We're wherever you are.
Okay, welcome back to the show. Irvin, I've been talking about building a good business credit profile. We've been using Dun & Bradstreet as our example for the day.
Right.
I think before we close out, one of the things I wanted you to touch on, Irv, is submitting financial information to Dun & Bradstreet.
Yeah. Listen, folks, you do need to submit some financial information to Dun & Bradstreet, but you don't submit financial information that's not going to help you. Does that make sense? In other words, if your financials are not your strong suit right now in your business, perhaps you've had a slowdown or maybe even had some injury or illness or something happens.
Or I got negative cash flow.
You got negative cash flow right now. You cannot submit those. No, let me back up. You should not submit those financials to Dun & Bradstreet because they're going to review those, okay? And they're going to run the ratios that the bankers would run, and they're going to report those to everyone, right? So you do not, if your financials will not support your effort to build business credit, do not submit them.
Well, I think that really says it all. I mean, make certain that you think this through. And when I say think it through, put a strategy together before you just run straight in headlong and set up a profile. Pay for these services. Give some thought to, are the people that you're doing business with even in a position to report your good payment history?
Absolutely.
You know, give some thought to what it's going to take from you if you're not doing business from a commercial location. So don't just rush straight in and put something together based on the whims of somebody else who says, hey, you know what, this is something that you need to do. Make certain that it's definitely the right thing for you to do it. Make certain that now is the time for you to do it.
Yeah, and folks, if you have more questions about this, I know we hit you with a lot of things about business credit today. You know, email us here at the show. You can email me directly, irvin.hughes@sbtmagazine.net.
And you can always send me something at john.cruz@sbtmagazine.net.
That's right.
All right. Guys, I want to thank you for tuning in to Small Business Today, which has been brought to you by Small Business Today Magazine. To get your free copy, go to smallbusinesstodaymagazine.com. I'm John Cruise.
I'm Irv Hughes.
And this is the place where we discuss the topics that inspires entrepreneurs from thought to action. So until tomorrow, be smart, be successful, and above all else,
be in action.
Irv and I will see you tomorrow.